Welcome everybody, how are we doing?
Good.
I want to start off with a bit of a ridiculous question. Don't think about it too much, just raise your hand for whatever you feel is right. And the question is, humans or machines? Humans? Machines? There's a couple of people, why did you say machines, Sandra? What was the reason for machines?
Because they're going to change everything and it's going to be quick, but I think we need to work with it.
Cool. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today, how humans and machines can shape and grow our future economies. But first I want to start with a little story. A story about a man who worked with machines his entire life, my grandfather. So he grew up on a small farm where I live in Scotland, on the east coast of Scotland. And as he was growing up, he was obviously working on the farm with machines. But after he graduated from school, he moved to work on trucks and drive trucks. And what he was doing was transporting potatoes from the farm to a fruit market in Glasgow. And every day he would set off in the morning with his truck and drive down to Glasgow to deliver his potatoes and drive back again. One day when he was doing this, he got about halfway there, and on the other side of the road, coming towards him, was another truck. And this truck started to veer out of lane towards him, and they ended up crashing. Thankfully, he was okay, but he went face to face with another truck. The reason I'm telling you this is 2 weeks ago, Elon Musk announced on Twitter that a Tesla Semi drove itself across the country. And that got me thinking, in the future, would my grandfather, would he be driving that truck? Would he still have a job? How would he feel about this? So what I'm going to do is start to unpack, how did we actually get here today? What are some of the trends that are shaping the machine economy? So then what do we need to do differently or think about differently today to deal with this future? And then what should we do about it? What should we do about it now? And what does this mean for us as humans, as people? So let's start with some of the trends, if the slides will stop jumping around. So we know in today's world we've never been more connected. We know that by 2025 there will be over 75 billion connected sensors in the world, and everything in this world is becoming more connected, from ourselves to our homes, to our buildings, to our cities. But it's not only these connected devices, it's also, and this is what gets me really excited in my job every day, working with clients, working with our teams, it's the convergence of emerging technologies. So it's not just when you look at AI just on its own, it's when you start to take AI and you start to combine it with other emerging technologies, things like the Internet of Things or things like blockchain. So I just want to ask the room, today, how many of you are running real-world projects or pilots in one of these technologies, so either AI, IoT, or blockchain, just on its own? So probably about 30% of the room. And how many of you are running projects with two of those technologies combined in the same project? So AI plus IoT, or AI plus blockchain. Not too many people, but the foundations are already in place, and really this is what the future machine economy is going to be built on, this convergence of emerging technologies with the technologies that we already use today. And this is going to create this kind of smart, connected devices which will eventually be able to operate on their own autonomously. But it's not only technology that's converging, it's different ideas, different business models. We've got the sharing economy and what I'd call the Uberization of business. So the concept of Uber and sharing a cab is actually, that kind of same model is bleeding its way into everyday business, where we're starting to see shared manufacturing plants. We've also got the explosion of the Internet of Services, which really started out with eBay in the early days, selling consumer goods, but is really bleeding into all different kinds of digital services. And on top of that, we've got widespread adoption of automation, AI, and machine learning. I just want to dive into the AI part just for a second. And there's one of the world leaders in AI, Kai-Fu Lee, has released this book just yesterday called AI Superpowers, which is all about the race between China and America and what they're doing in AI. And he talks about these 4 waves of AI. And the first wave he talks about is internet AI, which has primarily manifested itself in recommendation engines. So things like Amazon's here's what somebody else bought like you, or YouTube's, here's what video you should watch next, or Facebook's advertisements on their news feed. And this really takes advantage of data that is already flowing through our existing networks, or social networks in this case, and how users are interacting with it, so how they're clicking, how they're not clicking, to provide a personalization to them. The next wave of AI he talks about is business AI. And I think that's what a lot of organizations, a lot of us are trying to do today. And this really takes advantage of data that companies have labeled in the past. So my banking transactions, my insurance premiums. And I've called out Monzo and DeepMind here, but it's not just these startups or more emerging companies. Most of organizations today are trying to take advantage of data that they've already built up in the past. And the difference here above humans trying to interpret that data is AI can take advantage of weak correlations or features that humans wouldn't necessarily be able to spot. And then, in that way, it can outperform humans at making predictions. Moving on from that, we've got perception AI, which is basically upgrading AI to give it eyes, ears, different kinds of senses. So I'm talking about things like Amazon Go here. When you walk into a grocery store, pick up all your groceries and just walk out. That is a combination of IoT plus AI that's allowing frictionless payments. It knows what's in your shopping basket. Or things like KFC in China, where you can walk in, order a KFC, and pay with your face. No need to bring out your phone, no need to do anything else. And what perception AI is doing is it's really starting to blend or merge the physical world with the digital world. So that's the key part of it. And this company that I've called out is actually a Chinese company. And what they're doing is they're actually starting to transform a city or an area in China. They're putting particles inside cement, and they're building a city built for autonomous vehicles. So that when cars drive over the tracks, they will be able to charge continuously. So no need to go to a charging point. They're doing things like creating parking lots that turn into parks on the fly based on traffic levels. Intersections with facial recognition, those types of things. They're reimagining how we would interact with the real world around us in our cities. And it's all about blending the software or the digital with the physical. The final wave is autonomous AI, which starts to integrate these three previous waves and gives machines not only the ability to sense things around them, but respond to those. So Sidewalk Labs have got a similar initiative in Toronto, so do Baidu. So the machine economy, what is it? It's where smart, autonomous or semi-autonomous machines have the power to make their own decisions, operate in the world around us. They're more human-like, and they may carry their own digital wallet. What does the evolution of this look like? So right now, everything is becoming smart. We've got smart devices in our homes, from fridges to Alexas to Google Homes. All our everyday tools are becoming more smart and connected, from our vehicles, our buildings, our homes. Then the evolution is from machines that start to look after themselves. So they're able to monitor themselves. They're able to predict when they might need maintenance, and they're able to organize that maintenance or schedule it in. But this is still side by side with humans. So they might make the prediction, but the human would also verify that and give it the permission to do so. On top of that, we're seeing businesses move from buying or owning heavy assets to this Uberization. So we see this in manufacturing, right? And we see this in companies that we work with, for example, Unilever and their supply chain, and the energy industry. And Unilever, for example, they've built, over the past 50 years, they've built up these economies of scale, which were a competitive advantage, but now they're a liability. Tomorrow I can come up with a new consumer product, I can rent my manufacturing, supply chain, everything else, and I can compete on a global scale with the likes of Unilever. So we're going to see the shift from these types of businesses who want to start to share assets, start to rent scale. And then finally, we're going to see machines as our customers. This is actually a patent that was filed recently. I just want to talk you through a little example of how this might manifest itself. So here we've got an electric vehicle. Now imagine you're driving an electric car. One common scenario is you might start to run out of charge. You've got to find a recharging station. Maybe there's not one in the distance that you're able to make. So as a human inside that car, you've got to make a decision there, right? Do I stop, call for help? Do I turn back and try to make it home, or do I just try and go for it and try and make it? What we're saying here is in the machine economy, that decision is taken away from you. Now we're making an assumption that a human doesn't really care about making those types of decisions. So in this world, the car would make the decision for you, and it would summon an aerial unit, in this case a drone, which would be able to charge the vehicle remotely, no wires obviously, and the car would then carry on its journey. And through that charging, the vehicle would exchange a digital transaction with the drone to pay for that electricity. So it would transfer currency or digital money from the car's wallet to the drone's wallet. So you might be thinking, no big deal. Other vehicles charging other vehicles isn't exactly groundbreaking stuff, right? It seems fairly feasible. But there is a huge amounts of money being poured into this industry. And actually what we think about today and how we deal with building experiences of software today, it isn't necessarily going to work in this future world, which makes me come to my first point, which is we might need to rethink how we deal with certain situations. We might need to rethink some fundamental concepts. Let's look at design. So how many of you in the room practice human-centered design inside your organizations? A few nods, yeah? I think it's quite a common trend. A lot of companies, a lot of organizations are doing this. And the reason that we do that is because we want to be customer-centric. We want to understand what the human needs are, and we want to be able to service those needs. But if humans are no longer our customers and machines are, what does that mean? Should we be doing machine-centered design? They've got a totally different set of needs. Let's take this example of a car, again, needing to fuel up. So on the left-hand side, we have the human-centered journey. Person gets in a car, drives to the petrol station, fills up, pays. In this case, they get overcharged, but then it gets rectified through some kind of loyalty scheme. They get a voucher. In the machine-centered world, the person will still get in the car, obviously, but the machine will make all those decisions for you. And it's got different needs. It's looking at things like speed, availability, data integrity. But there's still an unmet human need or a new emerging need that we might need to deal with. So no longer is a human getting in a car and it's very task-oriented. I need to go to the petrol station. I need to fill up my car. It's an experience of leisure because they may not be driving, or they may not be thinking about where they need to go to get to the petrol station. They may not need to fill up the car. So the experience that we deliver to the human now is very different to what it was before. And I suggest if you want to hear more about the human-centered design in the face of AI, then go and listen to Kathy from IDEAN's talk later this afternoon. She'll have some more insights. So we might need to rethink about design. We might also need to rethink how we deal with data. So organizations today, they typically tend to have buckets of data that they keep to themselves and silo off. Think Facebook, Google, Amazon. They don't typically open their data up. And we do that as well in other industries. And we would like to build up these banks of data that we can use as our competitive advantage to mine and do AI on. But in this world where these machines might be moving about, interacting with each other, keeping that data in silos isn't going to work. It's not going to work in this new world. So we're going to have to open it up somehow. But we don't want to give that away for free. Nobody wants to give data away for free. So we're going to see an explosion of data marketplaces where data can be exchanged for value. One of the technologies that's promising to be underpin the future of the machine economy is a technology called Iota. It's a distributed ledger technology, and it does feeless transactions, so it's blockchain-like. Right now, they're running an experiment, a data marketplace experiment, which looks a little bit like this. So they have a bunch of companies, big and small, signed up to this. And each of these streams on the map is this different sensor stream of data. So here I can look at what the stream of data is. I can drill into it, and I can purchase that stream of data. That actually gives me access to that data stream in exchange for the Iota, which is a digital currency. In the future, we'll see this machines start to trade their services or data in such a way like this. So this is only the beginning. So what should we do about it now? I've outlined that we might need to rethink how we deal with situations that we deal today and might not apply in the future. But today, us as organizations, we need to be more proficient at the application of innovation, particularly at speed. We need to collaborate more across industries to really understand what this potential future looks like. And it may seem far away, but it's not. All the technologies are already available today, and people are already experimenting and doing experiments with them. And this doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be invested millions and millions of pounds into this. It's not a cost prohibitive exercise. So the demo that I showed you just there, there's small organizations involved in that too. But we need to experiment more so we can understand this, so we can learn from these emerging technologies and take those back into our businesses, back into our real world. And if most of the clients and organizations that I deal with, when I ask them, how much are you investing in Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 innovation? It's typically 20% or less. Most of their investment is in incremental innovation, what we call Horizon 1. So that would seem to me, if you're investing more in incremental innovation, then you might not have a future. We know that in 15 years, 50% of the Fortune 500 won't exist. So, and these investments, they don't have to be large investments. So we need to experiment more. Because the opportunities to shape and grow in the machine economy are literally limited by our own imagination. And it's actually, the more interesting part to me is not the technologies and how they combine, although that's super interesting, but it's the new business models that it will enable, and a new way of humans to interact with these machines, where machines can rent and operate themselves, where they can offer repairs, maintenance and service, or where they can come with embedded finance or offer or share their energy or bandwidth. And it's not just about autonomous vehicles. This is manifesting itself in our entire cities. It's healthcare as well. So imagine autonomous beds that interact with autonomous robots who are augmented by human surgeons. It's manifesting itself in agriculture, and I believe there's a talk this afternoon about smart drones and how they're affecting farming. In energy, the shift is well underway to the decentralization and the unscaling of the energy business, to be more decentralized and more underpinned by these types of technologies. So what can we expect by embracing the machine economy? We can expect cheaper products and services, perhaps, because we'll be able to share machines. We wouldn't need to purchase machines, which lowers the barrier to entry in many industries, which will drive innovation. There may be less waste environmentally because the machines are more utilized. And ultimately, through these new business models, marketplaces, new services, new businesses that we will create, they'll be creating new jobs and opportunities. And this automation drive will free up people to do what matters most to them. And hopefully, we won't end up in a world that looks like this.
So let's move over to the driving range and do a few virtual walls in space.
Now, we did that yesterday. I don't want to do that.
Well, then what do you want to do?
I don't know. Something.
So the interesting thing about WALL-E is that the underlying message through the film to the viewer was it's there to remind people of the value of personal relationships in a society where technology seems to dominate. And just to finish off the story about my grandfather. So on that day where he had a crash, what I didn't say was that when he was waiting for his truck to be serviced at the side of the road for it to be fixed so he could carry on his journey, him and the guy who crashed into him, they actually started talking, exchanging stories about life on the road and what it was like. Turns out they had they were doing pretty similar things, and they agreed to meet up a few weeks later, and so they did. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that us humans have a special superpower, which is one of respect, one of empathy. And in any new services that we should create, we should always build that in. So while AI may be here to automate some of our mundane tasks, it's also here to remind us what makes us human. Thanks for listening.